So President Biden is just wrapping up a meeting with Israeli President Isaac Herzog at the White House as the administration just continues to push for peace in the Middle East. That meeting coming as Biden's 30-day deadline for Israel to improve aid flow into Gaza expires. Here's Herzog speaking in the Oval Office just alongside Biden just a little bit ago.
I know, Mr. President, that you're day in, day out actively seeking their safe return home as they are going through hell in the dungeons of Gaza. Clearly, you're thinking and working about the day after as well, which perhaps should be a trajectory of hope to the people of the region and the ability to have our neighbors as well as us live in security and peace.
White House correspondent Karen Travers joining us now, plus foreign correspondent Britt Clennett. She's in Tel Aviv. So, Karen, what does the White House want to come out of this meeting today? And does Biden still really have any sway at this point?
Kira, we heard President Biden in the Oval Office ahead of that meeting with the Israeli president say that the administration's commitment to Israel is ironclad, and he said, we share a deep friendship. So that meeting there was really meant to underline that because, of course, there are a lot of tensions between the Biden administration and the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, who really holds the power in Israel. The Israeli president, more of a figurehead. But still, the president wanted to have this meeting today with Herzog to talk about three key issues. One, reaching a ceasefire in Gaza and in Lebanon. Two, trying to increase the aid that is going into Gaza. And three, also the bigger issue there in the region of stability, trying to contain Iran. Whether or not they can move forward on all of those three things, though, very much under question, because as you point out, the leverage issue is still up for debate right now in this transition period. The President-elect Donald Trump has a very strong relationship with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. They've spoken several times since the election. And for the Biden administration, they're trying to see what they can do now to reach the ceasefire, to try to bring the hostages home. But it's a question of whether or not the Israelis might be just trying to wait it out until January 20th when the new Trump administration comes in.
So, Britt, several aid agencies signed this joint statement saying that Israel has not met Biden's 30-day deadline to improve the aid flow into Gaza. Are they expecting anything to change?
Well, look, Kira, it's been 30 days now since that letter from Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. They signed it saying they wanted to see an improvement to the humanitarian situation in Gaza or face consequences to weapons supply. Now, their demands included more entry points for aid, the entry of 350 trucks per day. And in short, Israel just hasn't lived up to that deadline. Today, as you say, aid agencies signed a letter that basically said the facts are clear, the humanitarian situation in Gaza is now at its worst point since the war began in October 2023. And Israeli officials really have seemed to try and play down the significance of that deadline in recent days that the Biden administration warned could have consequences, as I say, for future weapons shipments. Now, I interviewed a COGAT spokesperson. That's the organization that facilitates the transfer of aid into the Gaza Strip, and asked him, why Israel had failed to comply. But, his answer was basically, that he refuted that report, but he did admit that they still fall short of those 350 trucks. He did blame aid organizations for not being able to distribute that aid, but at the same time, aid organizations say it's just too dangerous and that the conditions aren't there to get that desperately needed aid to people who need it in Gaza right now.
So, Karen, is Biden really prepared to cut off aid or take any major steps in the Middle East with the second Trump presidency looming right now?
And that's a big question, Kira, because when they set that deadline, the administration said that if Israel did not meet their mark, it could trigger U.S. laws that would lead to the restriction on military aid to Israel. But all signals right now coming from the State Department, our colleague Shannon Crawford reporting from there, that the signals are that the administration is essentially accepting what the Israelis are saying, that they have met their marks, that they're doing what they can do to try and increase the flow of humanitarian assistance into Gaza, and that they have tried to improve and are improving what is considered a dire situation, even by this administration's standards. So I think essentially what they're saying among the administration is that what the aid organizations are saying, they hear that, but they're taking the Israelis' word at this, that they're trying to make things better, and that there will not be a major change in administration policy when it comes to essentially a threat of consequences on Israel at that 30-day mark, and that deadline was today.
And Britt, new video is now circulating online of these strikes in Beirut. I think we've got it right here. The IDF has issued evacuation warnings to residents now within this building. What's the latest on this situation?
Yeah, so the Israeli military pounding Beirut's southern suburbs with airstrikes today, mounting one of its really heaviest daytime attacks yet on the Hezbollah-controlled area after the defense minister ruled out a ceasefire until Israeli goals were met. We saw smoke billowing out of over Beirut as around a dozen strikes hit the southern suburbs from mid-morning. After posting warnings to civilians on social media, the Israeli military said it had struck Hezbollah targets in the area of southern Beirut, including command centers and weapons production sites. But, you know, you talk about these evacuation orders, 14 more villages, residents there being told to evacuate, causing a lot of chaos and distress and panic because they say they just don't know where to go.
Karen Travers, Britt Glennet, thank you both.